Hello. So this is a tutorial for a certain kind of Graphgan. I know a lot of terminology that goes around it. Um, Not 100% sure I always understand which one's for which. If you're knowledgeable on this, you can please add something in the comments. But I call it the Tapestry Crochet technique. That's the YouTube videos I watch to learn the basics of the technique, where you carry yarn and create a Graphgan that is not C2C, not corner to corner. I've never done a corner to corner. It just, to me, seems like you can't get as much detail in it. That's what I really love about the patterns that I design, is there's a lot of detail in them. Because I try to make them look as lifelike as possible, as much like a scientific illustration as possible, kind of. I mean, it does depend on the pattern. Anyway, so I've been meaning to go over some basic principles of just what I've learned in making just copious amounts of this particular type of fiber art, if you will. I don't usually do YouTube videos, so bear with me. In terms of learning to just carry yarn, that is something that I've seen just done very, very well in other YouTube videos. This one is meant more to go over some of the techniques I use to do some of this like more complicated patterns, and also some things that, even though I learned with YouTube, I wasn't doing in the beginning. And as I made more and more of these, I found that when I started using these principles, and a lot of them, I mean, I came up with them on my own. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but they're not something that I just was readily in my face. So I figured putting them all into a YouTube video might make it easier for anyone trying to make my projects. So basically, this is the one I'm working on now. It's a sunset moth, and this is what the patterns look like. This is like the more detailed graph where you can see all the individual squares. I don't even need these for a lot of them. This one I like it because I'm going to be carrying so many different colors. It's nice to know whether or not I need to carry that color, because for a pattern with this many colors, I'm not going to carry all, what is it, 2, 4, 6, 7. I'm not going to be carrying all 7 colors through this entire project. That would be a lot, to say the least. So what I'm going to be doing is, like right now I'm at the bottom, and you can see some of the white. I've got the black yarn and the green yarn. I'm going to carry that dark green yarn in the background through the entire pattern, and I'm going to carry the black through the entire pattern because it's consistent through the entire pattern. And it's also good to carry some of the yarn through everything because it just keeps it even and nice, and it has a better feel and a little less stretch than when you just crochet single stitch, which this is single stitch, but this has the yarn carried in it, and it does give it a nice thickness that I really enjoy. And like, I don't know if you ever had one of those blankets that either you or someone you know have crocheted, that you go to like wrap up in it and it just stretches and you get these holes, and this doesn't do it as much when you carry consistently through. So if I have a pattern with 2 colors, I carry both colors through the entire thing, even if I don't have to. 3 colors, I'll often do the same thing. That's got a really nice feel to it. The only, and you can do 4. I've done 4 where I carry 4 through the whole thing. I try not to do more than that, and I try to keep all my patterns less than that. Unless there's sections. So for example, this is the last pattern I did. There's blankets right here. For this one, I carried the black and the gray through the entire thing, and I could have carried the blue. I chose not to, and I'm not sure which one I like better. I do think it might have been a little thicker and nicer if I did, but I also kind of like the way it came out as is. And then the yellow, I did not care. I'll show you the technique where you can like leave it behind and come back for it. But really, like, you don't need to carry every color in a pattern through the whole thing. That's why it's kind of nice to not just like have a Graphgan design, but have it designed by someone who's gonna, in creating the color setup, know kind of how you're going to crochet it, and trying to make that easy in designing the pattern in the first place. So that's the cool thing about this one. It's 7 colors, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry the black and the green. The white, I'm just going to carry in the area that has white. The yellow, just where there's yellow. The orange, I'm just going to carry here and here. That bright green, my printer is not the greatest. The colors on this are a lot better. If you see it on my page. The bright green there, only going to carry it there, and the same thing with that light blue color, which is like a little bit of a greenish. I gotta find, I think I might do this color for it, but I'm not sure yet. Anyway, but yeah, and then the orange I'll carry there, the yellow I'll carry there. But for most of this, I'm only going to be carrying 2 colors at the same time. And then other areas, there will be 3, and it's going to be dropping off and picking up. And once I'm done with, like, once I'm up to here, I'll never use yellow again. Not going to even touch this blue until I'm done with everything down here. So the colors change in this one. So even though there's like 7 colors, it's not, and like this color is the same as the background color. I thought that was clever. That's why I picked the color for the background than I did, is it allowed me to copy the colors that are in an actual sunset moth, which is so cool that this is a moth and not a butterfly, because it looks so much like a butterfly, and it's so gorgeous if you see them in person. I have some on my wall, and they're just beautiful, beautiful creature. But yeah, it allowed me to use one less color and trying not to make this like too crazy project. Still not the first project I would do for a Graphgan. I always recommend with Graphgans, do a practice pattern, so while you're getting used to carrying yarn and just learning and making sure you're doing everything right, any mistakes you make and figuring it out are within that like 50 square 2 color project. And then once you're really comfortable with that and you have a good handle on it, you can either do a bigger one, or if you want to be really confident, you can do one with 3 colors if you want. But I would really just work your way up to things, because it's not so much that it's so difficult to do, so much as so frustrating when there's like little things you haven't quite figured out yet, but you're trying to figure them out in something complicated instead of something like smaller and simple and easier to count and have to pull all your stitches out for if it's wrong. And some people pick this up quicker than others. Honestly, it took me a while. I was not a quick learner. Alright, so, alright, the methodologies I will go into. I mean, I've kind of explained when you'd pick up and drop off color, but I haven't explained how. So, for example, alright, we're working at the bottom here. So, it goes back and forth like this. And when you're done, so you go back and forth on the graph. This, you don't go back and forth, you just follow it, because it knows that we're doing this. Anyway, oh yeah, and this is what the pattern looks like. So you get the graph, you get the color key. The color keys are all on the top too. And then row 1, 150 stitches of A being the background color, and then B is black on this one. So, and we don't even see it till row 4. Row 4, it's in there. You can kind of see what it looks like. I'll include some of that in the description. As well as I'll add a list of all the terminology that people use for things around this. Again, not because I'm good at distinguishing them all, but just because it's a good reference point on what to Google search in getting answers that you might not have. You're also always welcome to message me, but some people like to do their own research. Alright, anyway, so a couple principles. So when I talk about doing a section, like the bottom section, and I say I'm going to carry this white, and I'm not going to carry it through the whole thing, I'm just going to carry it here. Well, I could do it a couple different ways. I could make a few balls of white and only carry this up, only carry this up, only carry this up, so I'm not carrying the white in between these little sections. But I don't want to do that. I'm lazy. I don't like to have to cut yarn and move it, which is why I carry yarn instead of There's another technique. I think it's called Intarsia Crochet when you, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure on that one. But another thing you can look up if you just want to see the different methods for making Graphgans. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is, and I'm not sure which way this is going yet, but they're pretty even. So I notice like, so the first white stitch I have is like this middle one on both sides. So, and then the next, and you have to remember that you're doing this while you're thinking about it. And this is when the graph comes in handy. So the next stitch, when I come back this way, is going to be 6 over. So, or no, yeah. Well, it was 11 over on this side. So when I'm going through, I'm going to carry that white yarn through 11 this way, because I know when I come around and turn back, I'm going to need that white there, and I don't want it stuck over there, which might not make sense if you're not used to the idea. So let's start with the basics. So I just did my 2 white at the end. I've already done them here, and I did that thing I talked about where I did 2 white and then I carried the white for 11 stitches, and then I just left it. I just pulled it out, left it, and continued to crochet this way. And it's just waiting for me for when I get back. So now I'm at the second little tail end, and let me get my pattern. So I did 96 rows of the background color, 2 rows of white, and oh, and this is where the 6 comes in, because it was 11. And that one, that's when I kind of like having the graph, because you can see how it's all going to come together when it's finished, and you can kind of cheat, which is nice. Counting's annoying. Sometimes you don't want to do the math. Sometimes the math is good too, though. You'll kind of learn how to just make sure things are accurate as you go, and count when you have to and avoid counting when you don't. All right. So for this one, I'm going to carry both of the colors. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, and now I'm just going to leave that white because I don't need it anymore. I'm only carrying the extra colors when I have to. Alright, and then I'm just going to finish off this row with that dark green. Another thing that used to happen to me a lot was I was constantly moving all my yarn balls around because they get tangled. Because every time you're done, you turn to like start from the other side, and I'd have to untwirl them all, and when you have a lot of colors, that gets really annoying. But the trick is just to untwirl them inside of the pattern, so you don't have to move your yarn balls at all, and just kind of keep them organized as you go, which I'll show you when we get to that part. Alright, there's the end. Chain 1 into the air and flip. And flipping is a little weird when you have a bunch of like little ends that you gotta move, but it works. You get used to it. Alright. I'm actually not too tangled right now. Well, I mean, there is this cross. So this cross will get worse if I don't, when I get to it, kind of like switch the order of the yarn in the crocheting project. So that was 24, and I'll highlight or underline where I am. Some of the more complicated patterns, or when you get to rows where there's just so much, I'll like underline, like, oh, I just did these two, oh, I just did these two. Other ones I kind of get good where I can just cross out entire rows, because you get better at how you want to count things and keep track as you do them. Trust me, I did not start off like this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Now you can't get rid of that twist I was talking about when you're carrying one color because there's just not really a good way to hide it. It's when you change colors that you're gonna do that. Um, Also helps if you have like kind of like a sneaky way of counting. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is gonna take all day. I count in 5, so 5, 10, 15, and then I need that white, which I'm more focused on the video than carrying it to the right part, so I have to do this. It's not quite where I want it to be, but at least I'm not doing this for the whole thing. So, and then I need 3 white. Although, actually, it's because I forgot that's where the white is. So that's just, but that's okay. Like, it's still hidden. You can make some mistakes with this, as long as you know where you are, and it's gonna look okay. So now, you see all this twistiness? This is how we're gonna fix it. Instead of me moving all these yarn balls and getting it fixed, because I'm lazy, I don't wanna move my yarn balls, I'm going to see what the next color is and pull it up from a place where there's some level of twist, and then just push this twist down there and chain off. So all that little tangle is hidden underneath the yarn instead of where I have to deal with it. And then I'm going to do 5 more of the green. That one's got a little bit of a twist, but I'm not working with those colors, so I can't really fix it right then. And then C4. And then A10. So here's the perfect time. I still had that little bit of a twist, so I'm just gonna shove all of that twist into the pattern with my fingers, and then while holding it, that part, pull up on the green, and then go back to crocheting. And you can't even tell that the twist is hidden under there. It really doesn't affect anything. And now look at my colors. I didn't have to move a single yarn ball. It's amazing. Yeah, I can't even tell you how many patterns I was just constantly moving the yarn balls everywhere to untangle everything. And you don't have to, so why do it? I feel like that's all the principles I want to go over. So, sorry for the complete... I don't usually make YouTube videos. I'll get better. I'm just glad I finally got one of these out there. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know. Take care.